am Crystal Downing, and I am joined by David Downing, my husband. We are co-directors of the Wade, and we are delighted to be able to talk about another wonder of the Wade.
In an earlier episode, we talked about C.S. Lewis's desk, and a bust of C.S. Lewis. This is J.R.R. Tolkien's desk. This is the writing desk upon which he wrote The Hobbit, much of The Lord of the Rings, some of the Silmarillion, wrote and illustrated. There's a beautiful handwritten letter by J.R.R. Tolkien in his distinctive calligraphy explaining the provenance of the desk. This was bought by his wife in 1927, and he had it through most of his working years and then donated it to a church charity when he felt he was done with it. He said in one of his letters, "I'm a hobbit in all but size." And when you look at the desk, it's very hobbity. It's a small desk. We've actually got it up on a platform to bring it up.
We also have on the desk the dip pen that Tolkien used to do much of his writing. And this is just absolutely precious. We do keep it behind lock and key, but you can see it here at the Wade. Both C.S. Lewis and Tolkien preferred dip pens. They enjoyed the process of dipping in an inkwell and writing because the process of dipping gave them pause. They would write a sentence and dip as they were thinking of the next sentence. And this letter that was written by Tolkien was done with his dip pen. Now, Tolkien did add an extra step to his process in that he would dip, write, and that he almost always had a pipe, so he would be smoking his pipe and tamp out down the tobacco in his pipe. And as we point out to visitors, the end of this dip pen is all melty and brown from when he would dip, write, tamp.
He says in this very nicely written letter about the provenance of the desk that he also illustrated his books at this desk. And this is a beautiful cover by Tolkien himself of The Hobbit. We have the first edition of The Hobbit, which is a little different than later editions. He had to revise it to make the chapter on the ring and Gollum fit to the Lord of the Rings. Mm-hmm. So actually, if you've got a first edition, you'll find that some of the chapter, the riddles in the dark, are different.
And what is really fun about the first edition that we have down in our archives, quite protected, is that it is extremely rare because all the first editions of The Hobbit were in a warehouse in London that was bombed by the Nazis. So most of those first editions burned up, and we have one of the rare ones that survived. And if you let us know in advance, we can let you see that very rare first edition of The Hobbit.
Here he is in his beautiful calligraphy with his dip pen, writing the opening of The Lord of the Rings. And he's going to write a fantasy epic of more than 500,000 words, and he gets stuck on the second word. It says here, when M, and he didn't quite finish the M, and he says M. And later, when Bilbo, so he decided it was going to be Bilbo's birthday. We're wondering, for a while, one of the characters was named Mungo. Strider was called Trotter, and in some versions, Frodo was going to be Bingo. So here he is setting out for this epic fantasy, and he gets stuck on the second word. I think that's encouraging to all you folks out there who have writer's block. Another illustration of his perfectionist tendencies as an artist, when he was writing Lord of the Rings, we get to, in the Two Towers, they're going through the mines of Moria, and they discover a room, the Hall of Records, the Chamber of Mizarble, and they find a book which explains what happens to Durin's folk. And he was so excited about illustrating this that he actually sent the publishers a piece of paper that he burnt the corners with his pipe, and then he put some red watercolors on to look like blood, and then black for ash and soot. And he actually has the runes of the dwarf people. And the very last line, it says, "We cannot get out." So he sent several illustrations that he was hoping would be included in the book. It was too expensive, but we love the fact that he had such dramatic visualizations of his own writing that he really could have. I wish they had the money to let him illustrate his own books and put them all through the book.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Wonders of the Wade. We'll be continuing with many other books and artifacts from around the building, the reading room, the archives, the museum space here. And we'd love to have you come visit us so you can see these things in person.